So anyway, the other day ago, someone asked me, Mike, how do you handle A-pillars? Okay, so just like the rest of these body panels had orange pill, the A-pillars have orange pill. And you can see I've already sanded this one, okay? So next I'll come over and buff up my sanding marks, then I'll tackle the roof. But let me show you how I handle A-pillars. And I don't make it too complicated. I mean, this is one of those things where you can make it as complicated as rocket science or just keep it simple. I'm always worried that there's less paint in these areas just because, you know, the painter might not put as much attention to them. So let's go ahead and, I put a black mark here on purpose, and let's just, you know, I'll try to take a reading before and after. 6.26 mils. We'll take a couple here. 7 point. See, it's curved, so there's no flat spot to put this thing on. 724, 681. See, so it's really useless to try to measure something like that. Here's a better idea. Use the right technique, the right products. Cross your fingers. You know, just do your best. All I really want to do with this is I just want to kind of flatten it down and then buff it out. So I reduce some of the orange pill, but I don't want to put myself in a situation where a mistake happens. I mean, I go through the clear. Okay, so over here I've got some, this is Nikken sandpaper. And there's a couple ways to do this. One thing I do is I buy these, Meguiar's makes a really good sanding backing pad, and it's the exact diameter or length here that you want for a half a sleeve of sheet sandpaper like that, see? But when I need to do some intricate stuff, a lot of times I'll just take a pair of scissors, and you can see, look, I just cut some out. You know, I cut them to the size I need, and then I cut a piece of sandpaper to fit on them. But, and here's a thin one. So this thin one, I could cut it thinner and it'd actually go this way. But for something like this, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take the normal backing pad, wrap this around, I'm gonna sand with this edge right here. So let's check this out here. And in that first video, remember I talked about inertia, you know, getting your hand moving. Just by getting it moving, it's easier to keep it moving and make nice, smooth sanding strokes, because the goal when sanding is when you're done, it shouldn't look like it's all scratched up, you know, sanding scratches. You want it to look just dull and uniform. And that just comes from applying the same amount of pressure. It actually starts with using a great sandpaper. Like the Nikken here. It's a really good paper. Okay, so for this one here, I'm going to just come down and reverse my hand. And a lot of times on these older cars, I don't tape off the trim, you know, because a lot of times it's pretty beat up. And buffing over it just cleans off the tarnish and the oxidation. So that's called slurry. So that's when you sand a clear coat, it turns white. Anyway, so I just, when I'm buffing them, I go ahead and hit the trim. It brightens them up, removes, you know, sometimes years or decades of oxidation and tarnish. But this is a show car, and it actually has really nice trim. It's not all dinged up. It's not all filled full of scratches. So let me go over here and grab a towel. So this time, you know, for this type of work, I taped it off just to be careful. Okay. I'm blowing on that to get the water to dry. So you can see where I flattened down the orange peel here, but I have to get into this side a little bit more. So let me come back in here and do a little more sanding. Here we go. Getting used to my head cam still. This is tricky work. Okay. And then I'm going to show two different ways to buff this out. I'm going to show how to use a 1-inch pad on a micro tool, on a Rupa's Nano long neck, and I'll also show how to do it with an 8-inch pad on a Rotary. Okay, let's come down here. This is 2000 Nikken, and I probably know more about Nikken than anybody still breathing. So my good friend Bill Stewart actually discovered this sandpaper line in Japan, and Meguiar's bought the marketing rights to it. Somehow they lost them, because I know Griot's has been selling it over the last few years. There we go. Okay, so now this just has a nice uniform finish to it. There's just a little bit more orange peel right up along this edge here, so I just give this a little more attention while I'm at it. It's always better to get all the sanding done. You don't have to come back after you've done buffing and start sanding again. Okay, let's try out that. And again, I don't ever try to get these things perfect. You know, if Dave Kindig or Chip Foose hired me to do one of their cars and, you know, time was not a matter, then, okay, that looks good. Then, of course, yeah, I'd take it even to a higher level. But in those situations, you gotta understand, the person doing the sanding and the buffing is working with the painter in the same shop. So he can walk over to the painter and say, hey, look, Bob, how much clear coat did you spray on the A pillar or on the car? And usually in high-end shops like that, they're always communicating, and they've already got a routine down. So the person doing the sanding already trusts the painter, knows he's gonna sand it and put enough paint on there. Okay, so first, let's take a look at the Rupes long neck here. And I got the 3-inch extension, and I'm just gonna grab their little blue micro wool pad here. Those are 2,000 grit sanding marks, and then I'll go ahead and use a little bit of our core cut. And let's see, I'll do the top portion with the top portion. I'm just gonna take and finger paint. So like I teach in all my classes and videos, whenever you're buffing paint, you need 2 things. Don't waste product, put it right there on the pad. You need 2 things. You need lubrication and abrasive technology. So that's the 2 things. And they're both really important. Okay. So what's nice about this is because it's really small, lightweight, compact in size, it's very easy to control. So you just come in here, and I always like to kind of use a little herky-jerky movement. One thing you don't want to do, just like sanding when using a rotary, you don't want to leave it in one place too long because you'll develop a lot of heat really fast, and that can lead to either twisting the clear coat. You actually physically heat it up and twist it. And I know some of you seasoned guys have done that before, because I know I've done it before. I actually did it on the front portion of a Viper for the president of the Southern California Viper Club. Anyway, there's edge work using a 1-inch pad on the Rupes Nano, and then at some point, you know, wipe off the residue, grab your handy dandy swirl finder light and come up and there's all of them are out of the easy to buff area. Down here it kind of gets in that channel. I still got to do some work in there. So we'll just draw some of that, put that right here. No big deal. But yeah, I was teaching a class at McGuire's, and he had a big old scratch on the front portion of his red Viper. So I sanded it and buffed it with a rotary using like a 3-inch pad, and I got it too hot and I twisted the paint. Just a little, not a lot, just a little. So I let it cool down, most important, let it cool down. Then I came back and resanded real lightly and then buffed it out. So I saved the day. And that kind of thing when you're doing a live, you know, there's 30 people there. When you're doing a live demonstration like that, sometimes it can be really hard to recover. There we go. That looks good. A little more right there. But anyway, so let me switch over. That's the Rupes Nano, and it does work good. I also like the Flex PXE. This has the rotary unit in it, and just kind of a cool way they attach there. And I also got a little extension on there, and same kind of thing. These tools, some people love them, some people hate them. They have what's called a rocker switch. You know, you push it forward and then push it down, so you rock it down. And I think what I've been told is the reason why is because in Europe, it's a safety regulation. So if you drop it, it'll flip off, I guess. That's what I was told. But I've dropped this a whole bunch of times with it on purpose, just to see if it worked, and it always stays on. So I don't really get it. I know a lot of people don't like it. And then it has a digital control. I should have showed all this with the long neck. And then, so you got 4 different speeds. And if you turn it off and you bring it back on, it drops down to the 3rd speed setting. The idea being that way you're not going to throw splatter everywhere if you go right up to the high speed. My guess is if you're going to throw splatter, you're going to do it no matter what. Okay, so then same thing. Just come down here and slowly massage out your sanding marks. And a lot of times, you know, I can pretty easily see as they're gone. A thin panel like this, and I'm holding my head kind of away so the camera stays focused on the subject, you know, the sanding. So it's kind of hard. Kind of hard to just look and monitor if I'm done. So instead I just buff a little bit, then wipe off. Let's see. A little more polish on here. Come out of there. That's way too much. I'll put some over here to save it. Finger paint. Okay. I'm going to bring the speed up. There we go. As Yancey would say, now we're cooking with Crisco. Whoops. Grab that, bring it into the work area. And like I was teaching when I was sanding the, the fender there on this car. I forgot what I was going to say. Like a surgeon. I'll come up here and get this little tight area right there. I got to do the whole roof still. Yeah, these things are a real pain, you know, but if you don't sand them, and then if anybody looks at your work, they'll see no orange pill. So it kind of completes the look. It's like putting tire dressing on the tire after detailing a car. If you don't do it, it just doesn't look complete. Okay, so then this is obviously going to be filled full of, oh, it looks beautiful. There's still some sanding marks right there in the edge. Sorry about that. Grab some product. Now I'm going to put some focused attention on that edge because I'm ready to move on. Oh, what I was going to say was the goal whenever you're doing sanding and buffing on a cool car like this is you don't want to turn this over and see red paint on it. That would be a bad sign. And when I did the sand and showed how to wet sand, cut and buff on the top of the fender, in that video I did come back and the exact pads I used are still on the tools, and there is zero red paint on anything. Okay. I made a mess over there. No big deal. I'm going to polish up the glass anyway. Okay. I'm pretty confident I got that. That looks good. Okay. Whoop, right there. A little bit of sanding marks. Okay. That's why I say this is real tedious kind of work, you know. And I'm not pushing very hard. I'd say like a pound, you know, real light. Like I say, anytime you're using a rotary with a compound and a fiber pad, there's the potential to create a lot of heat really fast. Okay, let's check that out. Now I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to show how to do this with an 8-inch pad. So I do almost all my edge work with 8-inch pads just because I've been doing this a long time and I want to go fast. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so that's how I did that side. And now, here's my rotary. Even though it's clean, I like to spur it anyway. Best way to do is lock this down on your head. And I'm going to be, I cleaned this, I spurred the side of this because I'm going to be going up on edge with this. Okay, so I've already sanded this side. So let me show you how I do this with the 8-inch pad. It's the same way, it's just, you got to be careful, obviously, but it's faster. You got a big 8-inch pad spinning on here. It's just going to cut through everything. Okay. Lock it in place. Lock the speed button. That way you put your hand back here, hold the heavy part of the battery, the other hand here. And this pad's spinning this way, so it's going to pull that product in. So I want to bring the the spinning pad this way. If I bring it up this way, this pad's spinning this way, it's going to grab that product and throw it all over up there. So if you want to become an expert at the rotary, you kind of have to learn what I call the way of the rotary buffer, which just means you just got to learn how that pad is spinning and then use it to your advantage. Okay, so that's kind of broken. No red paint. That is what we're looking for. Whoops. Should have brought a cart over here with me. Yeah, so if you want to watch the video, how I sanded, I showed how to hand sand, cut, buff, polish, create a show car finish, Dr. Beasley's YouTube channel. Okay. Oh. Sorry, forgot my stroll finder light. Scan grip. I think they're the original. Well, wow, that looks good. See how much faster that was? There's a little bit of peel down here, which I will have to get like the little guy polisher out, and there's just a little bit right here. So let me see, I know I can get this out. But this here, a little tougher because the trim's in the way. But one thing I always try to teach in my classes is, say you don't have a $400 micro tool. Then I'll show you how to work it out by hand. Just take some, put some passion behind the pad. Okay. How far down can I get? I'm hitting the trim right there. No red paint. That is what we're looking for. Okay, let's see. And strobe finder light. I guess you could call it there we go, beautiful. And how well did I do down here? Just a little bit, not bad at all. So I was even able to get that 8-inch pad about a ½ inch away and have it keep on cutting. Let's see. Well, I like to be an equal opportunity exploiter. What that means is like, I love both these tools. I don't really have one favorite over the other. I do like the long skinny neck for this for getting into things where this is kind of stubby. But they both work great. And being cordless, of course, that has its own advantages. Okay, so actually, if you look, I've got some compound right there. So just that should be enough. That's why I taped off that trim. It's really a nice shape, and I don't want to mess it up. This is all gonna get one more final polish job, so I'm not too concerned about just a little bit of touching here and there. Okay, let's see. Beautiful. Okay, so that's how I would sand it and then cut it. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to come back and I want to polish it, pull my holograms out. So yesterday, or in this video up here where I was showing how to sand, I talked about how I liked this brush for cleaning dried compound and polish residue off my foam pads. For wool pads, you use a spur. And you could use some other kind of brush, but this big fat area here, it just works so good. But here's how I do this. Just like that. Or I would hold this in my leg, but so you can see what I'm doing. I'm leaning her on the cart, so I'm getting the residue all over the cart. That's okay, I'll blow it out with Mr. Ego. And it's interesting, the NSP primers, the nanogel is water-based. They just don't seem to soak into pads. Pad saturation is so much less of a problem. Of course, you could always do this. But I do that initial clean just by leaving the pad still and rubbing it on there. Okay, so now I need to come here and pull out my sanding mark, or my holograms. So put a little bit of product in there. And I use the product a little bit heavy because this pad is dry. This is a blueberry buff and shine pad, and it has a sharpness. You can always feel the dry part of a pad and feel the sharpness. The finishing pad wouldn't feel sharp at all. And now this thing spins counterclockwise. So instead of coming down this way, I want to go up. And as this pad, see how this pad is spinning? As it's spinning, it'll pull this product into itself instead of throwing it everywhere. There, that's how you do it. And I'll show you another reason I like these pads. There's a channel right in here, kind of goes in, and I love the way these are shaped because this V-shaped taper here can get into tight areas that other pads simply cannot do. Okay, I'm gonna flip up and just run it a little bit down this other side just to give it some dedicated attention. But now, when I was showing you earlier, I was tilted this way. When I'm going to tilt this way, that pad spinning this way, I want to start at the top of this strip and run the polisher into it, and it'll pull itself into it. So let's see if the camera can pick that up. See that? It grabs it, pulls it into the pad instead of throwing it everywhere. And they don't take a whole lot to pull out the holograms in tight areas like this. Let's check it out though. And let's see, I left my stroll finder light over here. In hindsight, I shouldn't have showed both styles and both sides because that would have just saved a lot of walking. And where did my white foam polishing pad go? Oh, way over there. Okay, so that initial polishing was to remove the holograms. This soft white foam pad will be to just perfect it, just maximize gloss and clarity. Okay, let's see. Look how these things seat in here with a 6-inch backing plate, a 6-inch back. Okay, then let's see. NSP95. This is a product that works really good on soft paints. 45 if it's super soft, but 95 will usually get it. Okay, come down and pick up my product. Of course, this step even goes a little faster. Now you're just refining something you've actually already refined. Look this way. Fresh towel. Okay. So I only have one more 2-day class coming up for 2025. It's the second day of August as I'm shooting this video, Saturday. And this 2-day class actually covers what we're doing right here. You got to take both days because I'm not going to have people come in that have never used a Rotary or done any kind of polishing and let them sand down some other dude's street rod. But it will be a fun class, and stroll finder light. And then there won't be another one until February. Wow, that That's perfect. That's what I was looking for. Removed the orange peel and no red paint. So we sanded it, buffed it, no red paint. Anyway, if you think you'd like to take a hands-on class, you know, they're a lot of fun. There's literally no chairs. I bring in lots of cool cars. We start early because I cover a lot of topics. If I started late, you know, you wouldn't get to learn as much. So I start them early and we go late. And there's only a short lunch break. There's no like, hey, it's 10 o'clock, take a break. So, I mean, you can find plenty of classes out there with comfortable chairs, you know, and a great PowerPoint. But if you're the kind of person that learns better by doing hands-on, then go to drbeasleys.com. Look for a text link that says classes, click on it, scroll all the way to the bottom, find the date for the class you want to attend, add it to your shopping cart, and then check out. If you ever got any questions, give me a call. This is my personal cell. Just don't call after 6 p.m. You know, I'm not going to tell people in Bangladesh how to remove swirls after 6. So 760-515-0444. Okay, so here's the final results of sanding and buffing the A-pillars, but stick around to the end. I'm going to come around and throw a swirl finder light and show you how nice they look. But first of all, just if you ever want to do something like this, say you're a do-it-yourselfer, fix up your old car, paint it, sand it, and buff it, here's what I use. You can find anything that works for you, but here's what worked for me. I sanded with the Nikon made in Japan. This is an electronics grade finishing paper. It's not an automotive wet dry paper. I really like the Meguiar's E7200 pads because they're flexible, but they have a really nice super flat surface to them for knocking down orange peel. After hand sanding, also I showed how I cut these up to make smaller blocks to fit into tight, thin areas. I did the machine sanding with the Eagle Abrasives Bufflex 3000 grit. For the 6-inch discs, we use the Flex cordless FX3411 cordless sander. For the 3-inch discs, we use the Flex PXE with a 6mm drive unit. Don't use the 3, don't use the 12, it won't work. And by the way, these have the Rupes interface pads on them. See that white interface pad right there? That's Rupes. They kind of made a better version of the Eagle Abrasives with the microscopic hook on the hook side of the interface pad. Works really good. Took paint thickness gauge readings using the row point coating thickness gauge. Took before and after readings using the detailometer. I cut this thing first using a wool pad on a rotary polisher. Spurs always for cleaning your pads. And for that I used the Dr. Beasley's Core Cut. It's our new compound. It cuts really fast. Be careful with it. Then I did a 3-step polishing process. So I started out with a EdgeGuard blueberry pad. This is what they call heavy polishing. And I used that with the Dr. Beasley's NSP 150. And I use that to pull out all the holograms, because anytime you buff with a wool pad, the fibers, see the fibers there, they make their own little cut. They cut sanding marks out fast, but they leave their own cut. You got to come back and remove it. So that's what the first polishing step was for. Then I came back and refined it using a white polishing pad, the Dr. Beasley's NSP 95, and that pretty much got the car perfect, okay? But for show car work, I do the extra step, and I like this tool. This is where I think this tool really shines. This is the Rupes Bigfoot 21. It is so smooth, and that long stroke, I think it just really perfects the paint, maximizes gloss and shine. For that, that's a Buff and Shine EdgeGuard black foam finishing pad. And of course, I used that with the NSP 45. So everything was cut and polished using Dr. Beasley's NSP primers. One of the benefits to this is they're all inorganic, not organic. So after use, you don't have to use a panel wipe. You can go right to the coating. And then for the coating, I used the Dr. Beasley's NanoResin MX. And here's a quick walk around video. Let me grab my swirl finder light and we will take a look at these A-pillars. So the whole goal with the A-pillars is to not, just like the rest of the car, you don't want to burn through the clear, you know, expose the base coat. And there's no burn throughs anywhere on here. Did flatten out the orange peel. And so now the A-pillars look just as good as the rest of the car. And here's just a quick walk around video. 1968 Camaro. Wet sand cut and buff, ceramic coating. And if you'd like to learn how to do this stuff, I teach this on the second day of our 2-day classes. I used to teach a 3-day class. The 3rd day was boat detailing. I'll tell you, everybody was tired by the time they got to that 3rd day. But the 2nd day covers sanding down some other dude's street rod like this. The 1st day is all paint correction and ceramic coatings. There's no chairs, there's no sitting. The PowerPoint basically just has a picture of the car, the tools and the products you're going to use, so you can take a picture of it so you don't got to remember everything you did in the class. And they're a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. I've never had a complaint about any of my classes over the last 20, 30, maybe 40 years. Anyway, to get more information, go up to drbeasleys.com, look for a text link that says classes, click on it, go to the bottom of the page, find a date that works for you, and I hope to see you here at a future detailing class.